The information I put in the record is for a reason. In the last days of Secretary Clinton's administration, I sent her a letter specifically related to use of personal emails. And I did so not because of Benghazi, not because of any other investigations you might be familiar with, but because in the investigation of the Solyndra scandal at Department of Energy, we had discovered that a political appointee, Jonathan Silver, had been using personal emails to circumvent FOIA and the scrutiny. He went so far as to say, and this is in the letter to Secretary Clinton, don't ever send an email to DOE email with a personal email address. That makes it subpoenable. The letter went on to go through a number of those things, and it specifically asked then Secretary Clinton whether or not she had an email and whether or not any senior agency officials ever used personal email account to conduct official business. Have any senior agency officials ever used alias emails? That was a different investigation. And it went on. And I know by now you must have been made familiar with this letter. Approximately 2 months into your administration as the Secretary, your agency responded to that letter by not responding. Your agency sent a response that basically said, here's the title and the rules. Now, since it's been reported in those 2 articles that you personally communicated with Secretary Clinton, your personal email to her personal email, is it true that you were aware that she had a personal email and that she used it regularly?
I had no knowledge of what kind of email she had. I was given an email address and I sent it to her.
Did you look at the email address? I mean, was it a .gov? And would you have noticed if it wasn't a .gov?
I didn't think about it in that respect. I didn't know if she had an account or what the department gave her at that point in time or what she was operating with. I had no knowledge. But let me just say to you.
Okay. No, I appreciate that's a responsive answer, that you didn't know you were sending to her personal email from your personal email. Do you know, at least one of those documents now has been classified secret, do you know when that could be made available in camera to this committee so we would appreciate what it was about?
I don't know specifically.
Okay. You are aware that it's been classified secret, is that correct?
I am aware.
Okay. The letter, which did not respond to the specific questions, occurred on your watch. You've now had your watch for 3 years. Are you prepared to answer the questions in that letter, including who all is using email and what you're doing about it?
Well, Congressman, in principle, I'm prepared to have total accountability, and I think we do. Okay. Let me just say to you, my direction from day one to the entire department has been clear. Get the Clinton emails out of here into the...
Well, and I appreciate that, although it is amazing that we're still waiting for many of them. Let me ask just a couple more quick questions, and then you can have the remaining time. In the case of the use of personal email, we've discovered that additionally many individuals appear to be using text as a method of communication. Do you use text as a method of communication? Congressman,
let me answer your question by saying this to you. In March of last year, I wrote a letter to the Inspector General that I hired for the department.
I appreciate that you hired one and that your predecessor never had one.
And I asked the Inspector General to look at all of the email practices, communications practices of the department in order to deliver a review. And we are working with the IG's observations, which have been helpful, to make sure that the department is living up to the highest
standards. No, I appreciate that, but there's a pending question, Mr. Secretary.
But I don't want to, I'm not going to...
Would you answer the text question, please?
Congressman, I'm not going to get into an email discussion with you here on the budget of our department with all the...
Mr. Secretary, this committee is entitled to know the communication.
And our communications process is thoroughly being analyzed by the Inspector General.
I have a pending...
And we have had countless communications...
Mr. Secretary, I appreciate that. It's a simple pending question. Do you text or do you know of other individuals in your senior staff who use text And the
I have no idea whether they do or don't.
Okay, and do you use
I
text?
occasionally text some of the people.
And the final question is, how are you seeing that text, which by definition is required to be saved under FOIA requirements, under the Federal Records Act, how are you seeing that those texts are preserved since they are not otherwise preserved?
That is precisely what we are working on within our process today to make sure that everything. By the way, I don't text anything regarding policy. I only text my logistical administrative staff with respect to whether I'm arriving at somewhere or going something. There's nothing substantive ever texted.
Well, I would have certainly assumed that your private email to Hillary's private email also was intended to be inconsequential.
But that's secured. All emails are on the server that is the State Department, and it's all preserved. It's all part of the national records, and that's all.
I appreciate that, Mr. Secretary.